My mom had been nagging me about getting married. I decided to pull a prank and added my buddy to the family group chat, pretending he was my girlfriend. However, I accidentally added Betsy, the ice-cold CEO of my company, to the group instead. I thought I'd be fired on the spot, but then, she replied in a group chat, "Hi everyone, I'm Betsy, his girlfriend of 14 years. We're getting married next month." My jaw dropped. Did I just stumble into some clueless rich CEO system? Betsy's usually cold face was flushed red. She couldn't believe I had asked such an embarrassing question. Where was the sweet, innocent guy she thought I was? This was straight up harassment. Maintaining her composure, she kicked me out of her office and returned to her desk. Betsy was mortified and flustered. She gripped her teacup tightly, her fingers drumming on the table, her heart pounding in her chest. It was her fault for asking for his underwear in the first place. She was the CEO, for goodness sake. She'd weathered countless storms, yet here she was, flustered by a recent graduate. This couldn't stand. She needed to regain control. But no one had ever dared to suggest swapping underwear with her before. The more she thought about it, the more frustrated she became, a mix of shame and annoyance bubbling inside her. Her eyes narrowed. Right, that good-for-nothing Daniel. How dare he cut corners and take kickbacks? She grabbed her phone and dialed the design department manager. "If Daniel's case isn't handled properly, you're both fired." She slammed the phone down. After a short visit to the design department, it was finally time to leave the office. The family group chat was buzzing again. My mom was the first to tag me. "What did you and Betsy have for lunch? Share a picture of your meal." She needed to see if her precious daughter-in-law was eating well. If not, she'd have to whip something up. Her future grandchild couldn't be malnourished. I sighed. Now I had to have lunch with Betsy, and she always ate in the cafeteria. Thinking fast, I sent Betsy a WeChat message. "Betsy, how about I treat you to lunch?" No response. I tried again. "Betsy, time for dinner." Still no reply. Crap. I must have upset her. She was definitely playing hard to get. But this was their first meal together, and if I didn't send a picture to my mom, she'd definitely get suspicious. What to do? Meanwhile, Betsy wasn't angry, just preoccupied with Daniel in her office. He was on the receiving end of her pent-up frustration. When she finally saw my message, a wave of relief washed over her. She picked up her phone, her slender fingers dancing across the screen. "Don't call me Betsy anymore. It's too formal. It'll be weird when you have to tag me as Betsy in the family group chat. What if they find out?" I chuckled, relieved. So she wasn't mad. "Okay, then I'll just call you Beth, like everyone else." "Beth? Don't you think I'm a bit old for that? How about sis? I am older than you, you know." "Oops, my bad." "Right, sis. Where do you want to eat?" "Your treat." "No need. Come to my office. I've already ordered." She was so understanding. After replying to Betsy, I hurried out of the office and towards the elevator, heading straight for her office. As I approached, I heard Betsy's composed voice saying, "You're fired." A moment later, Daniel walked out, shooting me a venomous glare. I ignored him and went in. He deserved to be fired for what he did. But on the other hand, Betsy was ruthless. The whole incident with Daniel had only happened 2 hours ago, and he was already fired. I made a mental note to stay on her good side. Seeing me enter, Betsy composed herself and pointed to the table. "Lunch is here." I opened the container. Expecting a feast, I was disappointed to find bland, unappetizing food. "Sis, is this what you usually eat?" I was curious. "I haven't had time to exercise lately. Need to watch my figure. Told Jenny to order something light." Who knew it would be this bad? She sighed and popped a cherry tomato into her mouth. I stood up decisively. "Wait here, I'll be right back." I almost ran out of her office. Lunch without meat was no lunch at all. Watching me leave, Betsy's bright eyes held a hint of amusement. He didn't even touch his food. Why was he in such a hurry? It dawned on her. He wasn't really taking her to lunch. It was all for the picture to appease his parents. A few minutes later, I returned, holding a plate of chicken drumsticks and a cup of yogurt. "Sis, try this. The chicken drumsticks from the cafeteria are actually pretty good." Betsy looked up at me, her beautiful eyes crinkled at the corners as I smiled. This clean-cut young man had a smile that reached his eyes, genuine and carefree. She was momentarily stunned. Why was he smiling so brightly? Was he trying to seduce her? Did he really rush out just to buy her chicken drumsticks? We sat back down on the sofa. I opened the container and picked up a chicken drumstick, placing it in Betsy's bowl. Then, I put the yogurt I had bought specifically for her in front of her. Yogurt is the best for when you're trying to lose weight. It aids digestion. Trust me, it works wonders. Betsy stared at the yogurt and the chicken drumstick in her bowl, a strange feeling warming her heart. His concern was genuine, not driven by ulterior motives or flattery. It was the same kind of genuine, casual concern she received from the elders in his family chat. It was comforting. "Oh right, the photo." I suddenly remembered, grabbing my phone. I quickly opened the family group chat and snapped a picture of our spread, adding the caption, "Amazing lunch. Beth specially bought chicken drumsticks and yogurt." The photo showed both our bowls with chicken drumsticks, a cup of yogurt, and a plate of salad. It looked somewhat presentable. Mrs. Campbell had been waiting for a response for over half an hour. When her phone finally buzzed, she abandoned her dishwashing duties, hastily taking off her gloves to grab it. As expected, her daughter-in-law had sent a message about lunch. She excitedly opened the picture, but the more she looked, the more her brows furrowed. Something was off. "The two bowls are too far apart," she muttered. They were practically in the honeymoon phase, they should be inseparable, eating off each other's plates. But in the picture, one bowl was in the top left corner, the other in the top right. It seemed like they were sitting far apart. Mrs. Campbell was puzzled. Why so distant? Did they have a fight? I, on the other hand, had put down my chopsticks after sending the picture and was waiting for my mom's response. Usually, she'd reply within 3 seconds of Betsy sending a message. But this time, there was silence for a whole minute. My gut told me something was wrong. I quickly opened the picture Betsy sent and realized the issue. The bowls were miles apart. My mom may seem careless, but when it came to my marriage, she could spot a fake picture a mile away. My mind raced. We needed a photo that screamed intimacy to salvage the situation. A picture of us holding hands would do, but I couldn't just blurt that out, could I? Meanwhile, Betsy was also deep in thought. What kind of picture should she send? The only thing that came to mind was a picture of them being physically close. She noticed I was holding my phone and an idea struck. How about we send a picture of us holding hands? That should solve the problem, right? She suggested, scooting closer to me. I froze, blinking rapidly. I had briefly entertained the thought of holding her hand, but now that it was actually happening, I panicked. I blinked again. Sure, the next thing I knew, Betsy's cool arm was linked with mine. Her slender, pale hand slid up my arm, finally engulfing mine in a firm grip. Our fingers intertwined, sending a jolt through my body. Her palm was cool and slightly damp, while the back of her hand was soft and delicate. I had never held a woman's hand like this before, except maybe for Lucy back in kindergarten. Should I take the picture? Betsy asked, her usually calm voice laced with a hint of nervousness. This was her first time holding a man's hand, and when I squeezed lightly, she felt a secret thrill course through her, unlike anything she'd ever experienced. I got it. I quickly took the phone, snapped the picture, and hit send in one smooth motion. The picture showed a man's hand completely enveloping a woman's fair hand, conveying a sense of protectiveness. The lunch spread in the background added a touch of warmth. I was happy with it. Sis, check out my photography skills, I said, showing her the picture. Betsy, her face flushed, could only manage, can you let go of my hand first? She was starting to enjoy the feeling. Oh, I haven't let go yet. I looked down at our intertwined hands and teased, don't worry, sis, I'll explain everything. I'll let go now, wouldn't want to be impolite. Right on cue, my phone buzzed. I quickly let go of her hand and checked the notification. My mom had replied. I knew her too well. Mrs. Campbell had indeed replied, don't just focus on your own food, take care of Beth too. Seeing the picture of their intertwined hands instantly put her mind at ease. Both Betsy and I breathed a sigh of relief after seeing Mrs. Campbell's message. Maybe it was the lingering warmth from our intertwined fingers, but the atmosphere became a little awkward. We didn't speak, both picking up our chopsticks to finish our meal. Just as we were about to finish, Betsy's phone rang. The caller ID showed Mom. I noticed a flicker of helplessness in her beautiful eyes as she answered. Dad said if you're planning on staying single forever, just tell us the truth. We'll go adopt a couple of kids for you, so you'll have someone to take care of you when you're older, and the family business will have an heir. Even if you never get married, we'll make sure you have children. The woman on the other end of the line had a gentle voice and a kind tone, but her words were harsh. I couldn't help but think that Betsy's mom was even nicer than my own. No wonder she felt the need to fake a boyfriend. Threatening to adopt if you don't have a partner, how terrifying. Betsy seemed unfazed by this familiar brand of pressure, her expression unchanged. If you want to adopt, I have no objections. I'll explain to my boyfriend later that they're my dad's illegitimate children that I'm helping to raise. Our family is wealthy and influential. Having an illegitimate child is not a big deal. Her tone was as casual as if she was discussing the weather. I almost choked on my food. She was bold. If I were her father, I'd be fuming. The person on the other end didn't seem surprised. Such arguments were probably commonplace. However, she sounded curious. You have a boyfriend? Betsy glanced at me, her expression neutral. Yes. The voice on the other end was skeptical. Don't tell me you're making this up again to appease us. Let me tell you, you can't fool us forever. Whether it's true or not, I'll know when I see you. I'm busy with work, I'll talk to you later. Betsy hung up without waiting for a response. Judging by her expression, she was truly annoyed. Just one phone call and I could tell her mother would be a tough nut to crack. This was going to be interesting. So, I began tentatively, your mom seems difficult. Betsy finished my sentence, a hint of annoyance in her voice. Even compared to my own mother, hers seemed like a whole other level of challenge. Her anti-fraud radar was on high alert. Betsy nodded in agreement, clearly still bothered by the phone call. That's why I need you to bring your clothes over. And not just clothes, we need to make it look like we live together. Isn't this getting a bit out of hand? I gulped. We have to live together now. Was this what modern parents were like? Did they all enjoy seeing unmarried couples cohabitate? I was starting to regret ever mentioning living together in the family group chat. To my surprise, Betsy echoed my sentiment. Yes, she said, her voice firm. You can bring your things over tonight. I'll send you the address. The stakes had just been raised. Was this what true love was? Having to move in with your fake girlfriend? Times really had changed. Ever since mentioning living together in the family group chat, I was consumed by regret. And to top it off, Betsy was also on board with this ridiculous plan. I imagined what it would be like living with her. Betsy, dressed in a silk nightgown, giving me a massage, her soothing voice washing over me. Realizing my thoughts were veering off course, I shook my head. Snap out of it. Putting my phone away, I looked at the empty dining table. Mom, you didn't make dinner. What dinner? Go eat with Beth. You're living together now. You should eat together. What's she supposed to do if you eat alone? I sighed inwardly. Every sentence revolved around Betsy. Did she want a daughter-in-law or a babysitter? Fine. Why don't you swap with her? You be her son and I'll be the CEO. I grumbled under my breath, grabbing the bags of clothes by the door. I'm leaving then. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, my mom said, a triumphant look on her face. She looked like she couldn't wait to be rid of me. Outside, I loaded the 2 large garbage bags filled with clothes onto my electric scooter and entered Betsy's address into the navigation app. I had all my clothes with me, she could take her pick. 10 minutes later, I arrived at the entrance of the neighborhood. As I was about to enter, 2 security guards stopped me. Excuse me, sir, said the shorter one, we don't allow rag picking in this neighborhood. You'll have to go elsewhere. Sir, are you blind? I'm not collecting rags, these bags are full of clothes, not trash, I argued, gesturing at the bags. The guard glanced at my bags and said dismissively, sorry, we don't accept old clothes here. The residents here are all wealthy and only wear designer brands. They were familiar with most of the residents' faces, and seeing my electric scooter and the 2 large bags of rags, they immediately assumed I was collecting old clothes. They probably thought they could get a better price for the clothes in this neighborhood, which was why I was there. Look, buddy, go collect clothes somewhere else, the guard said, patting my shoulder sympathetically. His eyes held a mixture of pity and amusement. You're a good-looking young man, why are you doing this for a living? You'd be better off as a live streamer or something. This is just sad. He probably thought there was something wrong with me. I was speechless. Why was he looking at me with such earnest pity? As I was about to explain, a brand new black Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up, interrupting our conversation. The car was a first in the neighborhood. The 2 guards exchanged surprised glances but decided to let it pass. The residents here were not to be trifled with. The car window rolled down, revealing Betsy's exquisite face. She looked at me with an impassive expression. Get in, I'll take you home. Then she turned to the dumbfounded guards and said, he's my husband. Please help him with his things and bring the scooter downstairs. The word husband hit me like a ton of bricks. Wow, she's really committed to this, isn't she? Even the security guards weren't safe from her charade. I got into the car obediently. As Betsy drove towards Building 8, the 2 security guards were left standing there, completely stunned. So the rag picker was actually Mrs. Anderson's husband? Well, one muttered to the other, look at that. We soon arrived at Betsy's luxurious apartment. She looked at my 2 bulging bags with curiosity. Why did you bring so much stuff? I sighed. Didn't we agree that I'd move in with you? My mom kicked me out. Betsy chuckled. She understood what I meant, but the way I phrased it made her blush. I think you mean move in with my girlfriend, not move in with you. Right, I quickly corrected myself, feeling my cheeks burn. Where were you planning on going? She asked, walking over to the dining table, pouring herself a glass of water. She seemed deep in thought. I was going to crash at Alex's place. He's the one who pretended to be my girlfriend before, I replied, unpacking my clothes. Alright, Betsy nodded. Why don't you hang your underwear in the laundry room first? I can't find them. Wait a minute. I continued rummaging through the bags. The 2 large bags were a mess. Seeing me struggle, Betsy decided to help. She didn't want me going through her things, especially not her underwear drawer. She would handle that herself. She straightened her dress and crouched down in front of me, starting to sort through the clothes. Watching her delicate hands fold my clothes one by one, I felt a strange sense of warmth wash over me. This must be what it felt like to have a wife, I thought. A wife and husband tidying up together. With her nimble fingers, Betsy quickly separated all the jackets and hung them up neatly. Women are so much better at this, I said, impressed by her efficiency. As I was admiring her work, Betsy picked up my windbreaker and gave it a shake. Suddenly, several pairs of my underwear tumbled out from the folds of the jacket, landing squarely on her feet. Startled, Betsy looked down and froze. My underwear was scattered around her feet, and there were so many. Pikachu ones. Pikachu and Ultraman she could understand, but what was with the bright red one? My heart skipped a beat. So that's where they were. My mom had hidden them in my jacket. And now, they were sprawled at Betsy's feet in all their glory. Pikachu and Ultraman were one thing, but the bright red pair. It was supposed to be a New Year's tradition, but I had secretly taken it off the day after wearing it. The red was just too much. To my horror, my mom had packed the 1 pair of red underwear I had worn only once. Is there anything more embarrassing than having someone see your underwear? Yes, having them see your bright red underwear. Mortified, I scooped up the underwear, accidentally grabbing Betsy's foot in the process. Betsy stared at me, her eyes wide with shock, her chest heaving. That was her foot. What was he doing? Here you go, I mumbled, my face burning with shame. What was I supposed to do with myself? Betsy's mind raced, a jumble of confusion and something akin to amusement. Her foot tingled where he touched her, sending a strange warmth through her body. What are you doing? She finally choked out, her voice a breathy whisper. Realization dawned on me like a bucket of ice water. I had not only showered her feet with my embarrassing underwear collection, but I had also grabbed her foot. Her delicate, perfectly pedicured foot. Words failed me. I was mortified. I quickly retracted my hand as if I had touched a hot stove, my cheeks burning even brighter. I am so sorry, sis. I didn't mean. I wasn't. Oh God, this is so embarrassing. I stumbled over my words, desperate to salvage the situation, but only succeeding in making it worse. Betsy, still recovering from the shock, couldn't help but chuckle. His flustered stammering, the look of utter panic on his face, it was almost endearing. It's all right, she managed, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. I won't tell anyone your underwear preferences are diverse. She gestured towards the laundry room with a tilt of her head, trying to regain her composure. Go on, get those washed. Some of them look like they've seen better days. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. I grabbed my offending underwear, including the dreaded red pair, and scurried towards the laundry room, feeling her amused gaze on my back. As I tossed the underwear into the washing machine, I could hear Betsy's soft laughter echoing from the living room. I leaned against the washing machine, my heart still pounding. I had managed to turn a simple move-in into a complete disaster. And yet, a part of me couldn't help but smile. This whole fake relationship thing was definitely going to be interesting.